Underneath the engine on the passenger side, there is a splash shield protecting the belt and pulleys. We're going to use our 27 or T27 Torx bit to go ahead and remove these two screws here. I'm going to remove the shield. Now that we have that cover off, you can see the serpentine drive belt right here. It used to be the full width of the pulleys, and it has now shredded and is dry rotted. And the only way we can get this off is to cut it. This does not have an adjuster on here or a tensioner, so we're going to have to use a special tool to install the new belt. So let's go ahead and cut this belt now. You want to wear safety glasses. And then go ahead and remove the belt. And we'll throw this out. Now what we're going to do is we want to loosen these 4 bolts on the front of the water pump pulley. We tried to loosen them with the belt still on, but the belt was so worn and it only had about 2 to 3 ribs on the belt. It would not hold the pulley from spinning. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our 10mm wrench. We're going to use a pry tool. We're going to lock 2 of the bolts and loosen the bolts. We're just going to work our way around to loosen these bolts for now. All right, we have them all loose. Let's move up top. Now on your alternator, you have the upper pulley right here. On the bottom side, you're going to have a 15mm bolt that is going to come out towards the passenger side fender. So we're going to use a 15mm deep socket with our ratchet, loosen and remove that bolt. Go ahead, loosen and remove it. On the top of the alternator, we have 2 pieces of hardware right here holding the alternator to the bracket. There's a 15mm bolt here and a 15mm nut here. Let's go ahead and loosen these. This bolt here is using an E8 inverted Torx. Let's go ahead and remove this bolt next. The reason why we're removing this bolt is that the alternator doesn't come far enough forward without binding up on this stud. So we'll just remove the stud. You want to go ahead and disconnect the ground terminal on our battery. So go ahead and use our 10mm socket. Loosen that up. I'll go ahead and spin that off. Set that aside. Now on the back side of the alternator, there's going to be a rubber boot here with the battery cable that's going to it. We're going to just use a pick. I'm going to pluck that rubber boot down and off of that. Grab that and set that aside. Using a 13mm socket, we're going to go ahead and loosen and remove the nut. There we go. Then we can go ahead and remove the cable off of the alternator. Set that aside. Right underneath that, there is an electrical connector. I'm going to reach down and in, pinch the tab on that. It's a little tough to get to. Once that connector is off, we can go ahead and work the alternator up and out of the vehicle. And on our alternator, we have our positive battery cable that needs to go onto this stud right here, and we also have a connector on the bottom side that we need to also get attached. So we're going to lower this down Kind of work this around in a position. You're going to reach in. Press that connector in. And you'll hear an audible click once it locks in. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab our battery cable. I'll line that up on that stud. And get that nut started on there. Once we get that started, we're going to go ahead and snug that down. All right, so once it gets snug, make it a little bit tighter, maybe another 1/4 of a turn on that. I'm going to install our rubber cap on the top of that bolt head right there. Press it into place. I'm going to go ahead and slide the long stud into the engine right here. Install the long bolt beside it. I want to go ahead and make sure that the stud is threaded in all the way. Once that's snugged in, we can now go ahead and install the nut on the front side of it here. With all 3 bolts started, let's go ahead and tighten them down. Once it bottoms out, another 1/4 of a turn. Let's go ahead and tighten up that bottom bolt. I'm going to do the same on this one. So once it's snug, another 1/4 turn, and you should be good. With our old belt removed, let's take the new belt. I'm going to feed this down. And this is what they call a stretch to fit belt. I'm going to feed this around our alternator. These go down around our AC system. Let's go ahead and get underneath the vehicle and finish the installation. So let's go ahead and install our guide tool right here. I'm going to get our 18mm socket on the crankshaft. So once you get the belt lined up and put on, it's going to take maybe 3 to 5 revolutions for the belt to walk its way all the way on, fit onto all of the ribs on all of the pulleys. You have your crank, your AC or non-AC pulley, and then you have your alternator pulley up top. Make sure all the ribs are lined up. Let's install our belt cover here and take one of our screws. I'm going to go ahead and get that started by hand. And grab the other screw and do the same for this one here. Once those are in, we're just going to go ahead and snug those down. Let's go ahead and install our ground terminal right here. We'll snug that down.